Hi guys, welcome back to Chasing Cases with Maddie, of course. Welcome to the mini season. This is going to be a little 5-episode mini season to kick us off into season 3. The mini season is going to include cases that are important to me and cases that need to be discussed because they just were not in the media. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go chase some cases. Today we're going to be covering the case of Karen Umphrey. Karen was a young girl with a bright future ahead. She enjoyed spending time with her friends and loved her family very much, until one night everything changed. Karen was just 21 years old, living in Port Huron, Michigan. She lived at home with her mother, but enjoyed spending a lot of time with her boyfriend Fred. She also had many close friends who she loved dearly and who also loved her back. She was a very lovely girl. The night of her disappearance, between 12:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m., while driving back from a suspected party, Karen and Fred got into a fight. Fred exited the vehicle and started walking toward the 10th Street Bridge. Karen reacted by taking and parking the car a few streets up and walking to meet Fred. By 3:30 a.m., a motorist called Port Huron PD and reported witnessing a young woman being forced into a pickup truck at gunpoint. The caller reported the truck in the same vicinity of Karen's car. The next day, around 12:10 p.m., while walking in the State Game area in Clyde Township, Karen's body was discovered. 2 hunters made the discovery, finding Karen fully clothed on her back with a gunshot wound to the head. After the call to the police was made at 3:30 a.m., they went up to investigate near the 10th Street Bridge, and they found nothing. The police, with very little to go on, decided to take swabs of evidence. This being the 80s, they didn't have DNA and all that. Karen's case remained unsolved for 43 years, until DNA forensic analysis was completed in 2023. They began to work with the Michigan State Police Crime Lab to try and track anything down. The police also made contact with many of Karen's close friends and family just to see what details and information they could get about the case over 4 decades later. In their DNA forensic analysis, male DNA was found, leading back to a Fort Gratiot man. Now let's get into the suspects. Douglas Lemming, who is now in his 70s, was charged and convicted of the murder of Karen Umphrey. Douglas was traced back to DNA found on Karen's vaginal swab. Now, Anthony Harris, now 63, was also charged in Karen's murder. He was questioned based on his friendship with Douglas. Anthony later confessed his and Douglas's plans to find a girl that night and have sex with her with or without consent. That is when he described finding Karen, dragging her into the car, and taking her out to the State Game area. Anthony had stated the plan was always to rape a girl, and after the sexual assaults took place, he heard the shots be fired. Anthony pled and said he didn't know the plan was to murder Karen that night, even though that's the events that took place. Anthony pled guilty to second-degree murder. Maintaining his innocence, Douglas Lemming continuously said that he had consensual sex with Karen that night, denying any involvement in the murder. Thankfully, the jury did not see his bullshit. They sentenced him. They convicted him of murder. In the aftermath, family has stated that they feel a very small sense of peace knowing what happened to Karen. They just wish that they could have had justice earlier in life, and they just feel some peace now knowing who was responsible for Karen's murder and knowing that her murderer is locked up now. In impact statements, Karen's sisters described how losing a loved one in this way really impacts your entire life. Karen's sister, Kimberly, stated she felt saddened to know that her mother and brother never got to learn the truth about Karen's murder. Douglas Lemming was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and Anthony Harris was sentenced to 10 to 18 years in prison. And with that being said, that is the end of this week's episode. I send all of my love to the Umphreys. Now, I wanted to touch on something real quick. The reason Karen's case is so important to me is because my grandma was actually best friends with Karen. They did so much together. They liked to watch TV together. They liked to hang out, go on double dates and all that. My mom and my aunt were very little, and she would come over and get to hang out and get to watch the babies, and it was just, yeah, Karen was very important. So with that being said, that is the end of this week's episode of Chasing Cases. I send all my love to the Umphrey family. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next week for a normal vlog and in 2 weeks for Chasing Cases. I love you.